Hey, people. This is Dodger Dave with a Mormon Truth video. What we're going to do on this one is we're going to take a look at one of my web pages, and it's going to be God Calls the Magician's Apprentice. It's going to be about Joseph Smith and the restoration process. Okay, so before I get into that, though, I want to briefly mention I did put up another video today on the Mormon Truth Videos channel, not the Dodger Dave channel. I accidentally put it up there, occasionally put one up there, and I can throw the link in here because that just doesn't search as well. The web page searches very well. The long tail keyword, I usually get it as number one on Google. For Mormon Truth Videos Gospel Topics Hub with a name like that, long tail keyword, that works out great. So I'll throw the link in, and that one is about Mormon temple marriage and some of the negative repercussions for those of us that discover we've been lied to by the church, and the alienation that occurs in what occurs with children, which has happened in my life with the dissolution of my family when I had the nervous breakdown and was rendered useless, and my wife left with the kids, who now no longer speak to me. Anyway, you can see that over there and learn about that very important issue. So here I'm going to take a look at we're going to go under Restoring a Stairway to Heaven. And that one, I really feel like I needed to redo some of the, this type size and the color, because it's a little bit difficult. And so I'll do that. But here, we're going to use this resource, God Calls the Magician's Apprentice. And I'm just going to read it to you. And then, you can see that there are videos embedded that are pertinent to the subject matter here. So what do we got there? The top video on there is more early Mormon magic. So here we go. I'm just going to read it. Alrighty. Well, if you've gone through the page titled Restoring a Stairway to Heaven, that's the one at the top of this section, which is about the restoration in general, then you have an understanding of the reasoning behind the need for the God of Israel to restore his church and kingdom on the earth, including authority to perform necessary ordinances for salvation, such as baptism and the gift of the Holy Ghost, as well as what we discussed relative to the temple endowment, sealing husbands and wives together in celestial marriage along with their progeny. So if we decide that now was the time, then the next question is, who shall the Israelite God call upon for this extremely important task of reestablishing God's kingdom on the earth? So this is, I'm saying this in line with, LDS teachings. Of course, we know that the answer was Joseph Smith Jr., but what were the reasons for God to call Joseph Smith Jr., other than he knew him from the premortal existence as his spirit child, and he was obviously preparing him for his magnificent calling. So let's take a look at Joe's preparation, because it's pretty interesting for God to be calling the magician's apprentice to be the prophet of the restoration. Yes, even LDS.org, now the Church of Jesus Christ.org, now admits that after all these years, since they began to suppress the magical history of the scryer using the seer stone, like unto a crystal ball, as a treasure hunter in the night, they now have published a picture of one of his seer stones. In fact, the one he supposedly not only hunted treasure with his necromancer friends, who with him sacrificed animals to pirate ghosts and demons guarding ancient treasure, but also to channel the words for the Book of Mormon without so much as looking at any gold plates. In case that's a shock to you, let me repeat the church has published photographs and admitted Joseph Smith used it as the magical implement it was intended for, and it's right on the church's website. Since crystal gazing, scrying, or being a treasure seer or glass looker is no different really from being one who gazes into a crystal ball rather than a magic stone, in a hat as Joseph did, or a dark mirror, or using a Ouija board for revelation from the spiritual world, or even divining rods such as Joseph Smith's father and Oliver Cowdery were noted for, even in the Book of Commandments for Oliver. But that got changed, so we wouldn't have to see too much magical practices, and it just said the gift of Aaron after Joseph Smith decided Jesus said something different in numerous revelations in the Book of Commandments, and he published the Book of Doctrine and Covenants in its place with the revamped revelations. We might find that a bit odd, since the Book of Mormon and the Bible both condemn witchcraft and magic. However, that is the case, and the church has been hiding it for over 100 years. There are many accounts of Joseph Smith's activities along with his father and brothers in magical practices long before he published the Book of Mormon and founded the church in 1830. Looks like I got a mistake there. We know that some apologists love to quickly call everything uncomplimentary to the narrative of an all-knowing, unchanging, virtuous God guiding the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints nasty-sounding things like anti-Mormons, anti-Mormonism, or apostates. But the fact is, many of these accounts come long before Mormonism even existed. Not only that, but his own mother, Lucy Mack, is one who also testified of her magician son's activities right along with his storytelling about those Nephites and Lamanites, or whatever he may have called them at that point, long before any Book of Mormon was published, or possession of the golden plates. You can find that sort of thing in History of Joseph Smith by his mother, Lucy Mack, even though the current version after Brigham Young got to it definitely changed some things that Brigham Young didn't want in there. We also learn that seeking for hidden pirate treasure, especially from Captain Kidd, was not a practice exclusive to the Smith family, but was rather rampant in areas of Vermont and New York at the time, along with various magical practices, such as the use of seer stones, dedicated through witchcraft, as well as dowsing rods to locate possible treasures hidden within the earth. We have had many lessons in church talking about religious revivals in upstate New York, but not too much about the nature of the spiritualist and Adventist teachings and the magic practices, incantations, gifts of the Spirit, and general promiscuity for which these revivals were often noted. We haven't heard a great deal about the culture and the practice of magic as part of the religion in that time, nor do many Christians realize that magic and the mystery school religions, long predating the Freemasonry and other societies through which they have come to our day, all seem to be blended together with alchemy in science long ago, despite the Jewish Old Testament and the Christian New Testament seek to form separation between the Bible's God and the spiritual gifts attributed to Christianity versus those attributed to the Magi of the mystery religions. Remember, the three wise men were also called Magi, I believe, in some accounts. Here you will find some videos that go in depth on some of these magical practices, with references noted and photographs of magical implements used in that day, including by founding members of the LDS Church, such as Joseph Smith, Oliver Cowdery, Hiram Smith, Hiram Page, and Brigham Young. All right, so what we got? Unveiling the magical history of Mormonism or something here. So that's this chapter, and let's see what video this is real quick. Maybe we got time to hit a couple of comments real.
So welcome to the Dodger game.
Before I rename the channel, come on.
Let's
open it up here.
Video. This is going to be about magic and Mormonism. Joseph Smith.
Alright, can I see what the video title is on this? Anyway, it's right there, in there. I don't want to spend a bunch of time fiddling around on that, but Yeah, this particular video, I believe, shows, Brigham Young and his magic bloodstone and some other things. It's a pretty interesting video that I placed there. And I do need to add some of the videos that, have been more recent to the web pages. But this is a resource that can be used to educate yourself and loved ones regarding Mormonism. And this particular page doesn't have a ton of videos on it, does it? No, those are suggested. So they're housed on YouTube. So anyway, that is the God Calls the Magician's Apprentice page from Mormon Truth Videos Gospel Topics Hub homepage. All right, next I can hit a couple comments real quick here, and. Yeah, no, I don't need to mess with that. Let's go to the comments section here on the YouTube creator. See if we got anything we can address from today or a couple of days ago. Come on, what's the deal here? I'll pause it for a second. All right, well, for some reason I'm having trouble with YouTube Creator Studio opening. So I had read some comments and... let me see, Random Muse was the last comment that I saw up there discussing the time that I went up in front of a testimony meeting. That was February 4th, 2018. I walked into a testimony meeting in the Carlsbad ward, maybe 4th ward, in Carlsbad stake, a stake I've never lived in. But I introduced the people to the Gospel Topics essays and the fact that they lie about the Book of Mormon not stating, it states in the DNA essay, the Book of Mormon, the DNA essay on LDS.org, that the Nephites were never declared to be the primary or the only people in the Americas, and it pretty much did say that. It said that the land was washed clean, presumably by the fake news flood of Noah. Before the Jaredites came, and also the Nephites had the promises that the land would be preserved from the knowledge of other nations, so that other nations didn't overrun the land. They also received a separate promise to Lehi, stating that they would be able to possess the land unto themselves as long as they remained righteous. So presumably there weren't any other people here, according to that story narrative, whereas the Gospel Topics essay clearly states the opposite. Just like it clearly states in the Race and Priesthood essay that a skin of blackness is not a sign of divine disfavor or a curse, whereas 2 Nephi chapter 5 verse 21 clearly states that it is a curse. And that narrative's continued in Alma chapter 3 as well, and throughout that 2 Nephi chapter 5. And I believe elsewhere, especially where we find that the Nephites, are turned white again when they kept the commandments, and that was also promised that they would become a white and delightsome people, which apparently was something Jesus got wrong when he put it on the magic rock, because Spencer Kimball changed that 1981 to a pure and delightsome people they would become in the latter days after the Book of Mormon was revealed from the earth like a familiar spirit, right? Or whatever. Okay. So anyway, I introduced the people to that thought and did not get taken down off the stand. And so Random Muse complimented me on managing to stay so calm throughout my testimony to these people regarding the dishonesty of the LDS Church. I just kind of said things in a way that sounded so nice that they had to think about what I said. And then they're like, hey, I saw people looking at each other like, hey, honey, did you hear what that dude just said? Who the heck is this guy? So, you'd have to go back to that point in time, February of last year, to find when I went into sacrament meeting. The visual on it is bad. I had to, I had a phone in my pocket or something. Some of it you could see the guy coming up, which is why they took it off of the other channel, the better one where I had good sound, because the guy complained, the guy that came down and talked to me and interviewed me by my car. And then I managed to blur him out before they wasted my video on the Dodger channel. So it's there. The sound isn't as good as the one I had, but Google screwed me on that one. Yeah. And another recent the comment before that, if I can remember correctly, was Dave Norman saying that that we made something on the news feed on Reddit with yeah with the short video I did about the Deseret bookstore by the San Diego Temple closing. It's just not making economic sense for the church, I guess, or the members aren't worth it for the church to, deficit spend or whatever the case is on a little higher rent, maybe a lot higher rent. I mean, for a multi-billion dollar corporation to decide to shut down the Deseret bookstore for all the people in San Diego and maybe southern, I don't know, maybe southern Orange County, I don't know. They can go to LA, right? But I don't know of one by the Newport. So, yeah, Newport Temple. So it's Redlands or LA if you want Deseret books in person, because the LDS Church isn't willing to fork out the dough to put out the propaganda in San Diego anymore. Anyway, those are the last two that I remember, and I'm going to sign off here. Any support through means such as comments are always appreciated. Sharing, subscribing, and bumping to another video apparently helps the algorithm. At least that's what the new girl says with her channel. So she's doing better than I am all of a sudden. So I'll go with that, and of course hitting the GoFundMe button or the Venmo as soon as I get that in there. If I can find out how to log back into my account that I had, that will be helpful to fight the good fight and move this forward and bring down this despicable institution.